I wanted to ask, because you are an African-American man, I think you would have a different perspective on this issue than a lot of people. And I wanted to ask, what do you think of this culture of political correctness that's stopping the individual from analyzing reality at the risk of being seen as some form of bigot, like the refugee crisis, for example?
I mean, man, that's... Say what you want about a lot of libertarians, who I guess like the main one maybe being Stefan Molyneux. I really had to hear him say it to where I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan of him, but what I'm saying is he broke it down where he was saying like the regressive left. If you're going to talk about different political ideologies, the regressive left is the most dangerous because they're simultaneously trying to, they're doing the nonsense in which they're expanding the government. But they're also trying to silence the people that disagree with everything that they say by trying to end the conversation by just saying you're a bigot. And it's so stupid and that I hear people say, like when you talk about the refugee crisis, and I think some libertarians took the right approach. And my thing is like, all right, granted, yes, you want to call it a crisis and whatnot, but you got to understand in a lot of cases, this is theft by way of the American people, because they do have all access to a lot of different programs, not just funding the necessary screening to get here. Obviously, they're funding all of that, but they're in all these different kind of, I don't know, you can't really call them camps, but they're in all these different financial situations, and they have access to from day one since they got here, before they ever worked at all, before they had money to even be taxed, they have access to all of these kind of different programs and things. A lot of libertarians were like, well, wait a minute, that's not right. You know what I mean? The minute we said that, they were saying like, because my approach was like, all right, if you want to voluntarily bring, so you want to I guess sponsor a refugee, by all means, I'm all for it. But if you're talking about at the expense of the American people through this said extortion, you're going to pay for this. I disagree with that. And the minute you say stuff like that, you're Islamophobic, you're a bigot, you're all of these different names in which they more so. I think what it is they're trying not to have that difficult conversation, to try to have conversations about the reality of the situation. And I see people say this on the left, they do this with blacks all the time. If you disagree with what Black Lives Matter or these crazy organizations in which they don't even know their own end game. When you start hearing some of the things that they say, or rather what people say that disagree with them, you're automatically deemed as a racist. And all this is just a deflection tactic to not have the difficult conversations and the reality of the conversations, or have honest to God, conversations. Just have, all right, we're going to get to actual solutions. We have to at least be honest with the variables that are intact. And what happens with the regressive left is that they just try to deflect, in which they call you a name and try to actually silence you, and so to speak. And that's why I have to agree with guys like Molyneux, which they say, in terms of, if you're talking about different political alignments, I would say the regressive left is the most dangerous.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point there with Black Lives Matter. I mean, I had a whole campaign against me a while back ago, because basically what I said was what happened in Ferguson, burning down innocent people's businesses who happened to, actually the owners happened to be African American themselves, for their businesses, their private property to be burnt down because what some of these statist police have done. It just doesn't make any logical sense, and we know that Black Lives Matter and all the so many of these protests and organizations are actually funded by George Soros, the same guy who's funding the Nazis in the Ukraine.
Right.
I mean,
absolutely. No. That's the perfect way to put it, and this is what I was trying to make other African Americans understand. It's like, what you're doing, you're going to terrorize your own town because you're angry with what a cop did. But my thing is, and this is why I don't take them seriously, is because these same guys are going to turn around and come November, they're going to vote for the expansion of government. And I mean, 90+%. It's not even going to be close. 90% plus of African Americans that go vote Democrat, and they openly want to expand government. It's like, these are the same guys that are running their cities in which these hardcore, and they're seeing the what happens when you expand government. That's what big government is. When you get in your butt whooped by the government, and it's illegitimate and they get away with it. Yeah, that's big government for you, but they don't seem to take that into consideration, and that's the main reason why I don't take them serious. Because I mean, you look at And I wrote an article on being libertarian about how if African Americans just understood the basic history, if you considered history, all of them would be libertarian. You know, it would make sense. Because, I mean, from day one, when you had the slave, they got here fresh off the boat, and Virginia was enacting the slave codes. So they were enacting, they were utilizing the government to kind of orchestrate the society in which they were treating blacks differently than what they were treating their white counterparts. And this, from black codes to Jim Crow law, Supreme Court cases like Plessy versus Ferguson and Dred Scott v. Sanford, and all of these, it was just government. Even now, they try to recognize, at least somewhat, that government is causing a lot of problems. But again, they don't understand. That's why I say they don't understand, or they don't even know their own end game, because they're gonna cry and bicker about said police. But come election time, they're gonna vote. It's not even going to be close. They're going to vote for expansion of government. So this is why, honestly, until they change their voting habits, I feel no reason to take them serious.